convinced. Catherine was disconcerted and made no answer, but Lydia, with perfect indifference, continued to express her admiration of Captain Carter and her hope of seeing him in the course of the day. As he was going the next morning to London, "I am astonished, my dear," said Mrs. Bennet, "that you should be so ready to think your own children silly. If I wished to think slightingly of anybody's children, it should be not be of my own, however. If any children are silly, I must hope to be always sensible of it. Yes, but as it happens, they are all of them very clear. This is the only point, I flatter myself, on which we do not agree. I had hoped that our sentiments coincided in every particular, but I must so far differ from you as to think our two youngest daughters uncommonly foolish. My dear Mr. Bennet, you must not expect such girls to have the sense of their father and mother. When they get to our age, I dare say they will not think about officers many more than we do. I remember the time when I liked to red coat myself very well, and indeed so I do still at my heart. And if a smart young colonel with 5 or 6 thousand a year should want one of my girls, I shall not say nay to him. And I thought Colonel Foster looked very becoming at the other side at Sir William's in his regimentals. Mamma, cried Lydia, my aunt says that Colonel Foster and Captain Carter do not go so often to Miss Boston's as they did when they first came. She sees them now very often standing in Clark's library. Mrs. Bennet was prevented replying by the entrance of the footman with a note for Mrs. Bennet. Miss Bennet. It came from Netherfield, and the servant waited for an answer. Mrs. Bennet's eyes sparkled with pleasure, and she was eagerly calling out while her daughter read, "Well, Jane, who is it from? What it is about? What does he say? Well, Jane, make hasty and tell us. Make haste and tell us. Make hasty, my love. It is from Miss Bingley," said Jane, and then read aloud. "My dear friend, if you are not compassionate as to dine today with Lozia and me, she shall be in danger of hating each other for the rest of our lives. For a whole day's tete-a-tete between two women can never end without a quarrel. So come as soon as you can on the receipt of this. My brother and the gentleman are to dine with the officers. Yours ever, Caroline Bingley." "With the officers?" cried Lydia. "I wonder my aunt did not tell us of that. Dining out," said Mrs. Bennet. "This is very unlucky. That is very unlucky. Can I have the carriage?" said Jane. "No, my dear, you had better to go on horseback, because it seems likely to rain, and then you must stay all night." "That will be a good scheme," said Elizabeth, "if you were sure that they would not offer to send her home." "Oh, but the gentleman will have Mr. Bingley's chaise to go to Meryton, and the Hursts have no horses to days. I had much rather go in the coach. But, my dear, your father cannot spare the horses. I am sure they are wanted in the farm. Mr. Bennet are not there. They are wanted in the farm much oftener than I can get to them. But if you have got them today," said Elizabeth, "my mother's purpose will be answered." She did at last extort from her father an acknowledgment that the horses were engaged. Jane was therefore obliged to go on horseback, and her mother attended her to the door with many cheerful prognostics of a bad day. Her hopes were answered. Jane had not been gone long before it rained hard. Her sisters were uneasy for her, but her mother was delighted. The rain continued the whole evening without intermission. "Jane certainly could not come back. This was a lucky idea of mine indeed," said Mrs. Bennet more than once. as if the credit of making it rain were all her own. Till the next morning, however, she was not aware of all the facility of their contrivance. Breakfast was scarcely over when a servant from Netherfield brought the following note for Elizabeth. My dearest Lizzie, I find myself very unwell this morning, which I suppose is to be imputed to my getting wet through yesterday. My kind friends will not hear of my returning. Friends will not hear to my of my returning home till I am better. They insist also on my seeing Mr. Jones. Therefore, do not be alarmed if you surely hear of his having been to me, and expecting a sore throat and headache. There is not much the matter with you. Yours, etc. etc. Well, my dear, said Mr. Bennet when Elizabeth had read the note aloud, if your daughter should have a dangerous fit of illness, if she should die, it will be a comfort to know that it was all in pursuit of Mr. Bingley and under your orders. Oh, I am not at all afraid of her dying. People do not die of little trifling colds. She will be taken good care of as long as she stays there. It is all very well. I would go and see her if I could have the carriage. Elizabeth, feeling really anxious, was determined to go to her, though the carriage was not to be had, and as she was no horsewoman, walking was her only alternative. She declared her resolution. How can you be so silly, cried her mother, as to think of such a thing in all this dirt? You will not be fitted to be seen when you get there. I shall be very fit to see Jane, to see Jane, which is all I want. Is this a hint to me, Lizzie, said her father, to send for the horses? No, indeed, I do not wish to avoid the walk. The distance is nothing. When one has a motive, only 3 miles, I shall be back by dinner. I admire the activity of your benevolence, observed Mary, but every impulse of a feeling should be guided by reason, and in my opinion, exertion should always be in proportion to what is required. We will go as far as Meryton with you, said Catherine and Lydia. Elizabeth accepted their company, and the 3 young ladies set off together. If we make haste, said Lydia, as they walked along, perhaps we may see something of Captain Carter before he goes. In Meryton, they parted. The 2 youngest prepared to the lodgings of one of the officers' wives, and Elizabeth continued her walk along, crossing field after field at a quick pace, jumping over such stiles and springing over puddles with impatient activity, and finding herself at last within view of the house, with weary ankles, dirty stockings, and a face glowing with the warmth of exercise. She was shown into the breakfast parlour, where all but Jane were assembled, and where her appearance created a great deal of surprise. That she should have walked 3 miles so early in the day, in such dirty weather, and by herself, was almost incredible to Mrs. Hurst and Miss Bingley, and Elizabeth was convinced that they held her in contempt for it. She was received, however, very politely by them, and in her brother's manners there was something better than politeness, where there was good humour and kindness. Mr. Darcy said very little, and Mr. Hurst nothing at all. The former was divided between admiration of the brilliancy which exercise had been to her complexion, and doubt as to the occasions justifying her coming so far alone. The latter was thinking only of his breakfast. Her inquiries after her sister were not very favourable answered. Miss Bennet had slept ill, and though up, was very feverish and not well enough to leave her room. Elizabeth was glad to be taken to her immediately, and Jane, who had only been withheld by the fear of giving alarm or inconvenience from expressing in her note how much she longed for such a visit, was delighted in her entrance. She was not equal, however, to much conversation, and when Miss Bingley left them together, could attempt a little beside expressions of gratitude for the extraordinary kindness she was treated with. Elizabeth silently attended her. When breakfast was over, they were joined by the sisters, and Elizabeth began to like them herself when she saw how much affection and solicitude they showed for Jane. The apothecary came, and having examined his patient, said, as might be supposed, that she had caught a violent cold and that they must endeavour to get the better of it, advised her to return to bed, and promised her some draughts. The advice was followed readily, for the feverish symptoms increased and her head ached acutely. Elizabeth did not quit her room for a moment, nor were the other ladies often absent. The gentlemen being out, they had in fact nothing to do elsewhere. When the clock struck 3, Elizabeth felt that she must go, and very unwillingly said so. Miss Bingley offered her the carriage, and she only wanted a little pressing to accept it. When Jane testified such concern in parting with her that Miss Bingley was obliged to convert the offer of the case into an invitation to remain at Netherfield for the present. Elizabeth most thankfully consented, and a servant was dispatched to Longbourn to acquaint the family with her stay and bring back a supply of clothes. यहाँ पे होता है हमारा चैप्टर नंबर 7 ख़त्म फ्रॉम द बुक प्राइड एंड प्रेजुडिस बाय जेन ऑस्टेन. Bye for now. Thank you, my dear friends and viewers, subscribers. Thank you everyone. Bye for now. मिलेंगे हम नेक्स्ट वीडियो में विद चैप्टर नंबर 8.